This is Average Sports.
By your average guys.
Eric.
And Ty. That would be so bad.
Yeah. This is Average Sports.
Your average sports.
Average Sports.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of
You're listening to Average Sports with your average guys.
Average Sports, average guys, Eric and Ty.
Well, we just keep on keeping on. It's another episode of Average Sports with your average guys. I'm Ty. That's Eric on the other line.
Heyo.
Heyo. Yeah, glad to have you guys tuning in here. We are practicing social distance, as anyone else has been. And we got Eric here joining us via Skype. So glad to have you guys again once again tuning in for another edition of Average Sports. And have sports gotten any closer to happening, Eric, or are we just looking at a new way of seeing sports altogether?
It's interesting that question's asked because, everyone currently is still postponing. The NHL just extended their stay at home and postponement of the season, for another couple weeks. And the MLS is trying to do the same thing and figure it out. And MLB is continuing to have to adjust as their season would have recently started. So who knows if and when we're going to see something, and if and when 2020 is going to have any more sports. It looks like a lot of stuff is moving to virtual sports. There's a lot of NASCAR racing going on, which will bring us to
I want to stop you right there. So just when you think things can't get any worse and the coronavirus is the worst thing to happen to sports, whoa, yeah, Eric, tell us what's up.
Yeah, we're going to have to put the explicit code on this one because of what I just did there. But NASCAR's, let me rephrase happily. Former NASCAR driver Kyle Larson was fired on Tuesday after, during a live streamed virtual race, he dropped a racial slur, the N-word to be exact. He got caught and kind of has his tail between his legs and apologized. I didn't care to hear it, but quite frankly, I think that just says something personally about you. He's our butthole in sports for the weekend. Good riddance, totally. Kyle Larson.
Yeah, for real. And so I didn't know about this, so I had to look up what was he doing and what was the context. And he just threw out the word. It's best even just listening to the censored version of the video. Like what is he doing?
Yeah,
don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So moving,
just deep down, he's a bigoted person that needs some help, and has no.
He's got to figure it out.
In having that high of a paying job,
absolutely,
being that kind of person. So
no doubt. Okay, into a week recap on what's happening around sports or the lack thereof, but things are still moving on the back end, of course. Eric, I saw that you had noted that there are some new NFL jerseys coming out. We should be on the lookout for the next season.
Hey, man, after all the wonderful free agency frenzy that we had between Tom Brady going to Tampa and DeAndre Hopkins getting traded to Arizona, and then actually something that happened recently was Braden Cooks ended up going back to Houston, and Houston just looks like an idiot franchise for what they're giving up and getting for these players. Stephon Diggs going different places, these Nick Foles being traded and a bunch of stuff going on. We have some new uniforms to talk about.
Okay.
The Browns unveiled more of a throwback retro uniform, more centered around like the 60s and 70s, classic with the stripe for them. Other teams that have unveiled some new uniforms, the Falcons, Patriots, and Buccaneers have all unveiled or will unveil shortly. I think the Pats, I don't know that I've seen that one. I have seen the Falcons and the Bucs.
All right.
I don't know that I've seen the Pats new uniforms, but maybe that one's coming.
Eric, wait. Yeah. I'm looking at the Browns jersey. Is it bad that I don't see a difference? It looks identical.
I didn't see a difference either. A big thing is I didn't do a side-by-side comparison, but the big thing, I didn't do a side-by-side. The big thing that I picked up was the striping. Is more of a throwback. So, that's more back when they were in the 60s and 70s, and it's kind of classic to them. They removed any of the wording on the front. I know they used to have like Browns right above the numbers. They removed that and just kind of took it a little bit more old school. The Browns have never really been a team that changed logos a bunch. They're up there with the Bears and the Packers and the Cowboys and the Steelers, like teams that just don't change their logos a lot. and get real fancy with it. So,
they have
it's hard
nothing
to see a big
get
difference.
fancy with. Their team name is the Browns, and their helmet is orange.
I know.
What do you do with that?
I would kind of dig if they put the little elf leprechaun thing, like if they did that for one of the color. Okay. The color wave Thursday night games, I think that'd be cool. I wouldn't want to see that all the time, but something. Do
all
something.
Right. Hey,
it's pretty bad.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not a fan.
Well, the other uniforms, that's cool. I dig it. I think the Bucs could have used a little bit of a change anyway, so that's good to see.
Yeah, they went to a little bit more like post the creamsicle. Back when they won the Super Bowl. So they threw it back a little bit, to when they changed their whole new logo and image, they threw it back then and, went a little bit more 2000s on it. So
I dig it.
We'll see if that works out for them. But
sure.
Some other stuff, University of Cincinnati terminates their soccer program. I thought this was really relevant to put in here because, I think it's very telling of some of these smaller programs at some of these mid-tier to lower-tier universities, what is going to get cut from their, sports programs just permanently. Like Cincinnati's not bringing it back next spring. They're completely terminating
They have no intention of bringing it back.
Program. No, they have very explicitly stated it is terminated. It's done.
Wow.
Not coming back whatsoever. They will honor the scholarships of the athletes that are currently at the university. Now, if they want to transfer, that's on them. But if they stay at Cincinnati, they'll honor the scholarship through the term of the scholarship. But, they're terminating the program. And I think that's very telling. Could we see this at other universities with a lot of the financial crackdown that's coming across and happening with losing a lot of the basketball revenue for some of these schools? Like Cincinnati is a basketball school, and they lost a lot of revenue, but not being able to finish out their season or possibly play postseason. I didn't look that up. That's more just off the collar. But, could we see more universities cutting these programs with more, is COVID-19 restrictions, stay in place or continue? And especially if this leaks into the fall, what happens to those programs that are very big football universities? And what does the NCAA do to make sure that those get played? Because a lot of programs would get cut in lieu of keeping football afloat. So I would certainly worry about that.
A very sobering point and something to come out of the university system that sports are and is its own ecosystem. And when some elements, key core elements, start to break down, you'll see the kind of ripple effect happen across that whole landscape. So it's pretty depressing to see something like that happen. Something else depressing, Eric, dude, the news of your XFL. Whoa.
So disappointing.
Filing for bankruptcy. Yeah, they did not have
filed.
Oh.
Yeah, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy to kind of essentially sell off the pieces of the company. Coronavirus and, COVID-19 was a huge impact on them. I mean, they weren't overly successful in their largest markets in New York and Los Angeles, but the Texas markets, Seattle and St. Louis, were incredibly strong.
Sure.
Seattle and St. Louis in particular, the Texas markets were doing fine. But they were above the attendance numbers that they wanted.
Yep.
It's very disappointing because St. Louis in particular sold tickets to the upper level. They were expecting over 50,000 people to attend the next home game, which was the week, essentially before, everything got canceled a week before. So that's very, very sad to see. St. Louis certainly embraced it. Seattle certainly embraced it. There is a market for this. It just, unfortunately, outside forces impacted this very, very heavily. So sad to see.
Oh, no doubt. And very sad. And it's just really too bad that it was that fragile, though, that the XFL had millions, hundreds of millions, right? There was a vast amount of capital put into this new venture. You would think that they would be able to hit the pause button like so many other businesses. But,
when they were liquid, when you have to put the pause button and know whether revenue is truly coming in as an upstart league, it doesn't really surprise me. If they had been 5 or 6 years old, I would expect something different. But being its very first year and trying to find its footing in some of these markets, I'm not necessarily surprised that this is where it is. I'm very disappointed that they didn't just, we got to furlough everybody, put a pause on everything and just, pick it back up next year. But, kind of is what it is. So.
Okay, well, there hasn't been a whole lot in terms of sports to watch. A lot of reruns, which I think has been interesting. That's an interesting call. I've been driving around and hearing on radio baseball broadcasts. I listened to it for a few seconds, like, yeah, that's nostalgic. But do I really care of the outcome? I mean, if I want to know who won that day, I'm going to be able to figure it out. I mean, it's kind of neat to hear some of the old names from, maybe 9 years past, but it's hard to get vested into it. I want to know what's happening now. So there's definitely a void that's really tough to fill. For me, dude, I've been playing some sports video games, and particularly shameless plug, Retro Bowl. I recommend it. It is 8-bit football, man. Get in on this.
So tell me about it. I mean, 8-bit
it's like Tecmo Bowl, like playing like Bowl. Like on
Bo
NES.
Jackson in it.
No Bo Jackson. There's no real players. There's no real teams, just the cities, because it's not licensed. Yeah, of course. But you get to be a coach of whatever team. You play the games only on offense, so you don't have to get aggravated over trying to tackle a quarterback or all that. The defense just takes care of itself, but you still find defensive linebackers and other defensive backs, and and then you manage your team, and that's it, man. I mean, just play a 16-season team or a season and try to win the Retro Bowl. That's it.
Gotcha, man.
It takes like 5 minutes to play a game, and that's it. So then you're hungry to play another one, and you kind of get a sports fix.
I think I could be down for that, man. I'll be downloading it.
Yeah, but you are onto something. So I think this week we do not have an official topic. We just have been going over a recap, and we're going to get in some other segments here. But so glossing over this, but I think that does open the door up for a future topic in talking about virtual sports, or at least esports, and the kind of market share that they can be taking over, and what does this mean for the future of sports. There's, I think, a real potential of some real legitimacy. I mean, and not that there wasn't necessarily some before, because I think we talked about this, that like Fortnite, a tournament champion won $3 million or something as a purse. There's a real chance for some new sports to come out of this. So we should definitely keep an eye out in the universe of what's happening for how sports are evolving, because this is the time that you would see something brand new come out of the clouds. Pick a metaphor,
that's certainly an interesting point, because I think esports are certainly going to do their best to try and take some of this market share. I haven't necessarily seen a lot of them trying to do that, but I'm not really involved in that industry or that market, so to speak. I'm not really their key demographic anymore, so it's tough to say if they are, but I think that's certainly worth exploring amongst what the other major professional sports markets are going to be doing to adjust to this time frame as well too, and how they're going to be bringing us whatever product they're able to put out there. So it's definitely an interesting topic on how people are going to adjust and what market share is going to be available. And I think esports is primed to get a huge surge in what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. But with that, we are going to change the gears and actually move on with the show. We do have a couple of other segments that we've planned out. And for our Who You Got in this episode, we're still dreaming of some snow that exists out in the world. And there are ski resorts maybe still open somewhere. But that got us thinking of where are some places that we've enjoyed going to, some of the best ski resorts. And how about some best ski resorts we would want to go to? So, Eric, you got any thoughts on best ski resorts you would, if anyone is looking to go to that next place, get their turns in? Where are you going, man, my man?
I mean, if I'm given, the choice of any place I've already currently been that I have enjoyed the most, it is without a doubt, it's Steamboat.
Okay.
I've been there several times, living together in Colorado for many years. It's a short drive from Summit County. It's about 2 hours, but it's a quick drive up there, and it is incredible. I mean, the glade skiing and the tree skiing is unbeatable, and not only in the state of Colorado, but almost North America. It's unreal. It's a small town. It's that cowboy Western kind of feel town to it, which is great. And because it's such a big resort, there's not a lot of people that